Gotham Knights. This is a game that I've had my reservations about since the very beginning. The more gameplay footage I saw of it, the more I questioned the direction of combat and how slow everything felt and how lootery everything was and bullet spongy enemies were. And recently various news outlets and content creators got their hands on the game, and I'm hearing mixed things generally. On top of everything else, I hear the open world feels kind of empty and just not as lively as, past Arkham titles and the like. Another bit of bad news for console players in particular is that Gotham Knights will not be performing at a level that people were expecting for a game that's meant to be a next-gen release, or, now a current-gen release. As reported by Wario64 here, Warner Bros. Games Montreal has confirmed that Gotham Knights on consoles will run at 30 frames per second with no performance/quality mode option. Here's the full quote from executive producer Floor Marty, who posted this on Discord. "Hello everyone, I know many of you are wondering about the availability of a performance mode for Gotham Knights on consoles. Due to the types of features we have in our game, like providing a fully untethered co-op experience in our highly detailed open world, it's not as straightforward as lowering the resolution and getting a higher frames per second. For this reason, our game does not have a performance/quality toggle option and will run at 30 frames per second on consoles." You can see right here plenty of yikes or sad faces. People are generally not responding to this well. Look, do I think that 30 FPS will single-handedly kill the experience? No, I don't think so, but people have gotten so acclimated with 60 frames per second, especially with current generation consoles and their power allowing for a toggle that allows you to switch between performance and quality mode. And 60 frames per second, many agree, has sort of become the standard, or at the very least, aim for a 40 to 45 frames per second minimum, because the level of smoothness that you gain with those additional frames per second, you can really feel it. And that goes doubly true when it comes to games like Gotham Knights, where it's very action-based. It's very much about your reflexes and skills during moment-to-moment combat, and you just feel like the game is a lot more responsive at higher frames per second. 30 FPS these days, to me, just feels kind of sluggish, and it doesn't feel quite right. Plenty of people have been responding to Wario64's tweet with memes like this, Chuck saying, "What a sick choke, frickin' 30 FPS in 2022. And scrolling further down, you find plenty of people complaining. "Looks like a last-gen game and runs like one, but it's current-gen only." Some people are questioning the excuse that co-op is the reason that the game can't run above 30 FPS, with Kevin here saying, "If only co-op games could run over 30 FPS. Oh, wait, there are plenty of games that do that." Now, I'm not a developer, and I'm not here to say that making Gotham Knights a 60 FPS game is just easy, just lower the resolution or whatever. I'm sure there are technical reasons, but even still, I'm sure there was some way to achieve 60 FPS with this game on consoles, but the fact that it's not going in that direction is still disappointing. Whatever the complications might be that prevent that from happening, it's still an unfortunate aspect of the user and player experience. Some people pointing out that this is a $70 game. We're just 2 years into the current generation and 30 FPS lock games are already coming out. What kind of nonsense is this? So on and so forth. The complaints are, substantial enough that it's made some noise on the internet. Now, if you're a PC player, you might be thinking, all right, well, I guess I'll buy the game on PC. I can probably, adjust the settings and make sure the game runs at 60 FPS there. Well, something worth keeping in mind is that Tom Warren from The Verge has pointed out that the minimum specs for the PC version of the game are pretty hefty. We're talking about minimum specs to achieve 60 frames per second at 1080p lowest settings. To achieve 60 FPS at full HD resolution with the worst graphical options possible, you need an Intel Core i5 9600K or AMD Ryzen 5 3600, 8 GB of RAM at least, and a GPU of, at the very least, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1660 Ti or AMD Radeon RX 590. That's demanding quite a bit just to achieve the lowest settings at 1080p, so people are questioning whether this game will perform well on PC, even on higher-end hardware. Only time will tell on that front. But Tom Warren here aptly points out in a response to his own tweet that I don't want to sound elitist, but my brain really struggles to play games at 30 FPS, and I'm the same way now. I'm too used to higher frame rates now, so 30 FPS feels like sludge. That's why I've loved the move to performance modes this generation, because high frame rates trumps resolution. yeah, I am in full agreement there. Like, if we're dealing with a slower game that's more narratively driven, where you're not doing a whole lot of action-intensive stuff during moment-to-moment gameplay, then fine, 30 FPS works. But for a game like Gotham Knights, it's not just some negligible feature that barely makes a difference. 60 FPS tangibly makes a game better. It makes the connection between the user and the game much more direct. And what's baffling people about all this is the fact that Gotham Knights doesn't even look that good, even compared to an older game like Arkham Knight. Here's SkillUp's preview of Gotham Knights. He went hands-on with the game prior to release, and you can see right here, this is what Gotham Knights cityscape looks like, and then look at Arkham Knights in a bit, and how much more there's just going on. The atmosphere, the mood, the lighting, everything just looks so much better in Arkham Knights, and this game is many years old at this stage. How does Gotham Knights look worse than this and run worse than this with modern hardware? I mean, look at this comparison right here. It's night and day. The water just looks so much more dynamic compared to what Gotham Knights is going on, and Arkham Knights City just has so much more personality, and it feels like just more alive. Even details on the character models look so much better in Arkham Knight. In Gotham Knights, the cape kind of looks pretty bland, but then you look at Gotham Knight and how much detail there's like on the cape with how wet it looks, and I mean, there's so much going on here that just makes everything much more immersive looking. It didn't take long before we started seeing graphics comparisons on social media. People have been posting images like this, showing a side-by-side between the much better looking Arkham Knight on PlayStation 4 at that is 30 FPS because of obviously older PS4 hardware. And then you got Gotham Knight on PS5 running at 30 frames per second, looking, if you ask me, noticeably worse than the much older Arkham Knight. This tweet right here has already gone kind of viral with almost 19,000 likes, and this user said, Gotham Knight's getting bodied a week before release. Here's another tweet spreading the same image and wondering what's going on. This one has garnered over 14,000 likes. And what's especially baffling people is that this game is no longer held back by last generation hardware, because Gotham Knights for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One were canceled. Last gen versions were scrapped completely, and the reasoning provided by Flora Marty during a Discord AMA session was, when considering the scale and scope of Gotham Knights, we had to prioritize and focus our efforts to deliver the game at a satisfying level of quality for current gen. We totally understand that this is upsetting to players who don't own a current gen console yet, and believe me, we really didn't make this decision lightly, but in the end, we wanted to focus on delivering a game we are truly proud of. It made it sound like they really wanted to leverage the full power of current gen to realize their vision for the game, and also to offer the best visual fidelity and performance. But on the performance front, the 30 FPS limitation is pretty disappointing. Some people are wondering, aren't there tangible options to make it so Gotham Knights can run at 60 frames per second beyond just lowering the resolution and the like? Okami Games here brought up, the weird thing about Gotham Knights is that apparently it has forced ray tracing on console, like just let us turn ray tracing off. I find it hard to believe that turning off ray tracing and lowering resolution couldn't get you 60 frames per second. Other Twitter users are criticizing the fact that Warner Bros. Montreal hasn't been very transparent about warning people about the 30 FPS only performance on consoles, with Marcel Hattem here tweeting, can't decide if I'm more disappointed by the fact that it's only 30 FPS or that they were clearly trying to keep that a secret until reviews drop / the launch. The only time they shared this information was via this Discord message. The fact that it's 30 FPS only on consoles was never widely advertised or warned, and this is important information given that it might affect people's purchase decision. It might affect which version of the game they might want to get or whether they're getting this game at all. So them holding back this information until only a week before launch and only sharing this information via Discord in a sort of very low-key way absolutely deserves to be called out. It's also worth mentioning that this game was delayed. It was supposed to come out in 2021, but it was announced on March of 2021 that Gotham Knights is the latest big budget game to be delayed into 2022. And then earlier this year, back in August of 2022, it was announced that Gotham Knights would be pushed forward by 4 days. It released 4 days earlier than originally planned. Honestly, to me, it sounds like this game could use another delay. I feel like it'd be worth delaying this game just to add 60 frames per second to give developers enough time to implement that highly coveted feature. Not to mention that the game won't launch feature complete, with the Heroic Assault mode launching for free on November 29th, 2022, basically the month after the game's launch. And this is a mode that will let up to 4 players team up in arena-based challenges. This seems to be a separate mode from the campaign that will only support single-player or 2-player co-op. The campaign will not support 4-player co-op. So yeah, if the game was delayed by a couple months, not only could it launch with all of the features at once, but it could potentially pave the road for 60 FPS support. It's just hard to go back to 30 FPS after having gone through 60 FPS action games with many modern games for so long. Now look, if Gotham Knights ends up surprising at launch and it ends up being a much better game than I'm currently anticipating it to be, maybe the 30 FPS limitation is something that people can look past. But I'm personally not anticipating Gotham Knights to take the world by a storm, and that won't be helped by the lack of 60 FPS support. But I've not gotten my hands on the game, so it's hard for me to judge anything for sure at this stage. But in the meantime, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Gotham Knights launching with 30 FPS only, with no toggle for quality versus performance. Is that make or break for you, or is it not that big of a deal? And just in general, what are your expectations for Gotham Knights? Do you think there is the potential for the game to surprise and how fun it ultimately ends up being? Or are you sort of more on my side of the fence, where you have maybe lower expectations for the kind of impression this game will make? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.